what I'm talking about? I'm talking about spring training. Catchers and pitchers have reported today.
That's right. Life has begun again. All things are new in spring, and we got a new baseball season coming up.
We sure do, and we're going to break that down with our projections of what the starting lineup's going to look like, and then also what the pitching rotation's going to look like for your 2021 New York Mets. So let's get right into it. I'm going to start with mine, if you don't mind.
Go ahead. Be my guest. Be my guest.
So leading things off, the always speedy, always anxious Brandon Nimmo. Nimmo's going to be leading it off. He's playing center field. I like this guy playing center field. I like him leading off. I'm okay with it. He's fast. He gets on base. Secondly, McNeil. Speaking of guys who make contact and get on base, Jeff McNeil. This guy, great number 2 slot hitter. High average, makes sense to me. Number 3, this is when things got a little tricky for me because I wasn't sure what to do with Lindor. Lindor's going to bat number 3. Listen, this is a guy that we're probably going to be paying the most out of anybody besides Jacob deGrom. So Lindor is going to be number 3. Switch hitter, love that, him being in there. He's got the speed, so if nobody gets on before him, he can steal a base. And he's a great contact guy with power. Number 4, Michael Conforto. I'm going to put in there because I believe he's going to be a better average hitter. He's going to make more contact, more doubles, more singles than the next guy who's going to bat next after him, and that's Pete Alonso, the Polar Bear. Polar Bear, love him. Probably my favorite player, if we're being honest. And this guy's going to have a breakout year again. And I think he's going to show some power numbers, maybe a lower average, though, so that's why I have number 5th. And then Dom Smith, who I expect to have possibly a career season this year, to go out there and just dominate. Now, if he can survive in left field, let's go ahead and let's put him in left field. And let's get him number 6. I know 6 sounds a little low, but you got to put him somewhere. And I want Lindor number 3, so I'm putting him there. And you see the righty-lefty situation here.
I do, too. I do.
Now, speaking of righty-lefty, now we have a right-hander coming in. And that's going to be Davis. So J.D. Davis. You know what J.D. stands for?
What does it stand for?
Just dingers. And I expect him to hit just dingers this year. He might not play a great third base, but he's going to have to learn, right?
He's serviceable. He'll
be serviceable. And serviceable number 7 hitter. Now, rounding things out and batting 8th, Mr. McCann. So, Mr. McCann, big signing, $10 million a year. That's no slouch, and he's a good catcher, but he can hit a little too. So, I decided to put him in my lineup, of course. So he's going to bat number 8.
Well, it's either that or Thomas Nitto.
Oh, yeah. And then, obviously, we know who's going to bat 9th on opening day. It's probably going to be Jacob deGrom, barring anything drastic. So I'm going to say he's our ace. He's going to definitely pitch. He's definitely going to hit, it looks like. We're not going to have a DH, it looks like. And this is subject to change, because if they bring in a DH, this looks completely different. So, Ryan, you go into your lineup now. Let me hear yours.
All right. So my lineup's going to start very similar to yours. Of course, I'm going to have Nimmo leading off. I mean, if this guy's in the lineup and you're starting center fielder, he's leading off. It makes sense. He gets on base. He's an on-base machine. Whether he gets the walk, whether he gets hit, which he does a lot, he's going to hustle to first base, and he's going to hustle all the way around those bases. Decent speed, even though he's not a big base stealer, and you just need a guy like that leading off. And then second is McNeil. Again, it makes a lot of sense. This guy is one of the most patient hitters in the league, doesn't strike out a lot, will allow Nimmo to possibly steal some bases, or even say if Pilar is in the mix, or even Almora, somebody who can get on base, it allows him to steal some bases. Now, here's where we differentiate. Number 3, I have Michael Conforto. Now, Conforto, as you mentioned, is a high average guy, and that's why I got him in the 3 spot. He might be the highest average on our team. He's a 300 hitter, 30 home runs, 100 RBI potential. To me, you need a guy like that anchoring your lineup, and you want him to get as many at-bats as possible.
Okay.
Now, number 4 after that, I do have Pete Alonso.
Ooh, it's getting cold in here.
Yeah, it's getting polar in here. Now, this guy just clearly is a long ball machine. Not as high of an average, but huge on the power. I think those numbers are going to return to form in 2021, and it just makes sense to have him anchoring your lineup in the 4 spot. Now, number 5, this is where, it might get a little controversial. This is where I have Lindor batting. Despite the fact that he's a switch hitter, and despite the fact that, he is going to be a centerpiece of your lineup for a long time, this year, I just feel like the 5 spot sits him well. It allows you to kind of reset that lineup after Pete Alonso, allows you to continue with some great hitters, but at the same time, I just feel like he slots better there than maybe, say, a Conforto, who you just want him to get as many at-bats as possible is really what it comes down to me. It comes down to, Conforto is possibly grandfathered him, maybe grandfathering him in here a little bit, but I just think with that average, he does have a better, I think, average potential than Lindor, just from a strictly batting average perspective. Plus, it just allows you a little more flexibility in the middle of the lineup with a switch hitter. After that, that's where I have Dom Smith. Dom Smith batting sixth. Again, I know it seems like he's very low in the lineup with his potential, but he does have to prove it. I'm going to say that. Everyone's anointing Dom Smith. I think he's going to be very, very good. We do need to see it in a 162-game season before you can just anoint him the second coming.
Oh, yeah. That's why I had him sixth, too.
Exactly. And on 7, J.D. Davis. It just, makes a lot of sense. Continues that good switch up of lefty-righty. You don't have too much happening at one time. And he's, like you said, he's got a bat somewhere. This is a very stacked lineup. Mm-hmm. This is a very stacked lineup. So you have a guy like JD with that kind of power hitting 7th, you're in good shape. Yeah. You're in good shape. And, of course, McCann 8th. It's no slight on McCann. This guy can hit, but he's here to be the catcher this starting rotation needs. That's his main purpose here. We already saw the reports. He made sure Luis Rojas let him know every pitcher that got signed, and he made sure he got their contact. He's a little demanding. He demanded their contact info, so that way he could go out and get in touch with them because he wants to build a good rapport. He's going to be very good for this pitching staff. And, of course, no DH. DeGrom's your opening day starter. Yeah. No one's questioning that. There's no reason to question that. There's your opening day lineup from my perspective.
I assumed as much. I mean, I don't think there's any argument whatsoever unless you're crazy. If you're absolutely insane and you think that, I don't know, maybe Stroman should be the ace, then, I don't know, we got other problems. But speaking of DeGrom, he's obviously the number one guy when it comes to rotation. We did promise you we'd break down the rotation here. So, got to have DeGrom there starting on opening day. That's why we went ahead and we just decided to go ahead and put him in that starting 9. For me, personally, I say Carrasco. Then you got Stroman in there. You got Peterson. And then Lucchesi. Am I saying that correctly? Is that an Italian name, or I don't know what that is?
It's definitely Italian.
It sounds like an Italian dish, is what it sounds like. Give me some Lucchesi. So I want to have him number 5, probably number 5 starter. Look, the order doesn't really matter. I think orders are a little overrated. You can agree with that, I'm sure, when it comes to a starting rotation, as long as you got your 5 starters. Now, the depth here, we can go on and on about the depth. We got a lot of pitchers that we signed under the radar, but I think these are probably the biggest chance of opening day. And then also, don't forget about a man called Thor. Is he a man? Is he a god? I don't know. Maybe a little bit of both. But I think he's going to be coming in June. I expect him.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, I might flip Stroman and Carrasco, but really outside of that, you can't really go wrong. And again, after the first time through, after opening day, these rotations don't really matter. They get swapped out all the time between off days, rainouts, and things. So it's subject to change pretty much after the first week of the season.
Yeah.
And they've got some good depth now. They got rid of Steven Matz and brought in some real good depth for him. Some real good guys that are at that upper echelon level of prospect / already some service time. And they're right there to step in. So that way you don't have guys like Oswalt and such getting in there and stinking it up, really, because that's the truth. When the injuries happened to the starting rotation, and they do happen, they will again this year. It happens every year. You can't avoid it. You need someone to be able to step in there and take over that role and not lose too much, not feel like, you're just giving away the game.
Right around the corner, we're going to start playing some spring training games coming up. So February 28th is when 28 out of the 30 teams are actually going to be playing. That's Sunday the 28th of this month. So baseball's right here. So for Steve, Ryan, that's what we have for our Mets prediction, and we're out.
Baseball battle.